Welcome to the Epic Success Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shannon Irvine. All right, today we're going to deep dive into the topic that I think no one else is talking about. This idea of not just scalable success, but sustainable success. Here's the thing. We saw so many people coming in to the online marketing space in 2020 when everybody was in the pandemic and everyone was at home and had nothing else to go spend their money on. And so there were a lot of what I call false positives, a lot of people that jumped in the pool and made money, but have been struggling as we've returned to a normal market. And yes, this is a normal market. So today I really want to talk to you about not just scalable success, but sustainable success. And what does it mean to sustain your success over time? Because at the end of the day, if you're like me and most of my listeners, you didn't get in this game for fast cash. You got into this game because you really wanted to help people, because you wanted to create a life that your kids and your family could enjoy, yes, but also like a legacy. You wanted to be able to make a difference in the world. And then when you're struggling to continue to create results, the number one thing that I want you to think about is, what are you focusing in on? This was the biggest challenge for me as someone who is very naturally driven. I'm an Enneagram 3. I love to win for the sake of winning, not winning against others, but me versus me. Does that sound familiar to you? Like, I want to win. And so I set these goals. I wanted to get to 5 figures. Then I wanted to get to 6 figures. Then I wanted to get to 7 figures. But the problem is when you are driven for an outcome versus driven for capacity, your capacity never grows. Meaning, when you're forever focused on a number, an outcome, have you experienced that letdown? Maybe you did get your business to 6 figures, and then what? You have to move the bar. So what happens is, in that relentless pursuit of a number, you have no time to expand your capacity to be able to receive that next space that you're headed toward. So the difference between people that really sustain success and people who maybe hit it big, but that are gone. So many businesses, they said the drop off of businesses that filed their closure from 2021 to between 2020 and 2023 was the final number, was 52% of online businesses are not here anymore, y'all. Like, that's crazy pants cuckoo sauce, man. So I really wanted to talk today in this flash fire, like, what can you do? Some of the mistakes that I made and some of the steps, the moves that I made that took me, even though I'm a very outcome driven person, I had to flip it over to, what can I control? So here's what I want to give you a visual. I want you to, like, this is an exercise that I did and it changed the game for me. And I want to share it with you. I want you to draw a circle in the center. And I want you to write down everything you can control, why you're doing what you're doing, what the legacy is that you're creating. How can you control how you show up? How can you control how you serve? How can you control being the best version of you? Is there an area in which you need to strengthen your capacity? See, that you can control. You can learn, you can grow, you can stretch, you can control that. That's all action by you. What you can't control is the outcome. So in that center circle, when I've done research and I've had a lot of podcast interviews with multi 7, 8, and even 9 figure entrepreneurs, the through line across the board is this is where they focus. They focus on the controllables. They focus on getting better. They focus on improving 1%, 2%. I think about Tiger Woods when he won his first big tournament. The very first interview, he said, only 55 more until I get to the Masters, right? So his mind wasn't on just achieving the goal. If you think about it, how many incredible celebrities or football stars, right? They hit that NFL title or they hit that and they're like, this is all there is. There's nothing left. The money, the achievement in and of itself doesn't satisfy. Very tempted to like dive into a scriptural moment there because it's like only the pursuits of the Spirit satisfy. And the pursuits of the Spirit, God says, I give you the desires of your heart. In other words, you aren't manufacturing those. You aren't, oh, I think I'm going to do this today. God is planting that in your heart. That scripture that God gives you, that word gives means plant to deposit. So if it means plant to deposit, then that means that desire of your heart is God given. So when God gives you a gift, your experience with that is to give it to as many people as possible. You cannot control the outcome, like how many people will take it and receive it, how many people will receive it and not do anything with it. We cannot control that. So the big through line, as I was saying, is controlling the controllables, how you show up, how you're getting better. Are you getting better at stating your message? Are you getting better at speaking? Are you getting better at your offer? Are you getting better? The difference maker is training your brain to think at a different level and then gaining the skill to create a pathway in your brain to allow the next level. Because scripture says, as a woman or a man thinks, so is she or he. In other words, as you speak it out, that is actually aligning with that God-given desire in your heart and creating results in the marketplace, results out there. One of the biggest drawbacks I see is when people make money, create a result, and they can't repeat it is because they're back in their mindset around what got them there. But what got you where you are today isn't going to be getting you to the next level. There's a whole other gear. For like years, I operated my business. Now, granted, I showed up bigger than others, but I operated my business as if this is for your OGs out there and OBs. Like, remember the stick shifts? Like, I operated my business like there were 3 gears. I was moving, I was taking action, but I was so focused on the goal and not who I was becoming that I got to the end of that 3rd gear and there was nothing left. And that feels like burnout, overwhelm, and exhaustion and confusion because you don't know, like, why is this work hard and more education thing not working for me anymore? Work to get you close to 6 figures, but it isn't going to work to get you to 7. So what I'm talking about today, sustainable success, it's really controlling the controllables and then looking at every area that matters in your life and asking yourself this one question. I do this on a monthly basis. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a business owner, I'm a nonprofit founder, I'm a friend, I'm spiritually involved in church and I give there. And the next thing I want you to do, because this is the game changer, this is controlling the controllables, is what is the best version of me there? What does that look like? When you define out for your brain needs to believe it in order for you to see it. That's how God created your brain. Tells us to think on what is good and true and pure and lovely. These are the things as you think on them, as you the word literally translates into marinate. As you marinate in the things that are next version of you, those good things, those excellent things, then what happens is your brain goes to work actually manifesting it out. In the manifestation happens. I hesitate with that word because manifestation is just a result of you training your mind to see it as if it's already happened. I always say, like, 6 figures, you can hustle. At 7 figures, you can't expect to gain if you do not train. And what I mean by that is if you don't up level to a 7-figure CEO mindset, and I want you to try that on today, like an entrepreneur. That is a huge percentage of people that say that. You know how many percentage of those people who say they're an entrepreneur actually create sales? Any sale? 25%. And of those 25%, do you know how many of those people actually get to a consistent $10,000 a month? It's less than 5% of the 25%. And do you know how many get on to 7 figures? This is not to discourage you. This is to tell you that don't expect to do the same things as those that call themselves an entrepreneur because it's a cool thing to say. Become the 7-figure CEO. See, when you wear that, now your brain is saying, oh, so what do I need to do to become a 7-figure CEO? How do I need to think? What execution? How do I need to act? How do I show up? How do I go pro at a 7-figure level versus a 6-figure level? And you stop identifying with the masses. I'm an entrepreneur. Although I love that term, I do. It's like my heritage. Do you know what I mean? But if you're ready to up level to the next place, we've got to own the identity. I'm a 7-figure CEO because CEOs do different things. They show up, they lead, they improve. We improve how we show up every single day. We ask the questions that help us define gear 4. Gear 5, gear 6. And that's been my journey this year, is really understanding that the pros, the 7 and 8 and 9-figure CEOs, they operate on a gear, and I operate on a level now that I'd say I'm in gear 4, but I'm aware there's a gear 5 and a gear 6, and I'm becoming the person that can shift. So wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or Apple, I just want you to come over to YouTube and just write the word shift if you're ready to make that shift. Like it's sustainable scaling, sustainable success requires a version of you that you haven't been taught in school. It requires you to up level in ways that you've never seen before. And that's why I love getting to do what I'm getting to do, because I can take a group of 10 or 20 6-figure CEOs and sit in a room with you for a week and walk you through the entire process. When you come out on the other side, you have installed a 7-figure CEO, thinking process, actions, alignments, just the capacity that you have. And we used to really help a lot of newer entrepreneurs. And the reality is, although we'll do that with our book that's coming out, the 67-day years coming out in September. I'm so excited about that. We are really moving toward this immersive experience with CEOs that are ready to get to 7 figures and beyond. And you know it's not strategy, right? You know it's not just more of what you've already done. That's the frustrating part, is you're doing all the right things and it's no longer getting the scale to happen. So sustainable success really is about, let's look at what we can control. Let's start to define out what is the most excellent version of me in all the areas of my life. What legacy am I doing this for? So that you're looking at the key indicators that matter most as measures for success, because the target will go up, the target will go down. But the success quotient, or defining your success in terms of a 7 or 8 or a 9-figure CEO, it's really controlling those controllables. And then the next piece I just want to share with you is scheduling the actions that will create the belief. What do I mean by this? When we watch and observe people at the level we want to be at, you can observe actions. That's the beautiful thing about watching a 7-figure, watching an 8-figure. I'm watching 9-figure entrepreneurs right now. And I'm watching very quantifiable, very visible actions I can see them taking. At a conversation, actually, no, it wasn't a conversation. That's not true. It was a training that I got to be a part of with Alex and Layla Hormozi. And he was talking about going on a podcast, and the podcast host, who has multiple 9-figure businesses, asked him for his podcast prospectus, I think it was. And Alex was like, Alex Hormozi, if you don't know who he is, Google him. He's incredible. He is my mentor from afar. He's amazing. And Layla as well, both of them for different reasons. But here's the thing. He said, I'm not sure what that is. Could you send me an example? And the person sent him an example, and it was for one podcast. It was 25 pages of SEO research, title research, bullet points, just all like, so his perception of what pro was for podcast changed in that moment. So there's some visible things you can start to look at and say, okay, if I'm observing 7-figure CEOs that have the business that I want, what are those observable actions that I can put in my calendar now? So I'm not saying that everyone is, but one of those is exercise. Most of the people that I respect, that hold my values, they're all moving, they're mastering the health and mental wellness and relational wellness. That's not true of every multi-millionaire, but it is true of the ones I want to follow. So make sure, first of all, you know who you want to follow. The last thing you want to do is follow an example to a place of misery. But once you find those people, you can start to go, oh, I see they're showing up at their kids' games. They're scheduling that. So that hint of to sustain success, we got to sustain it for what we're doing it for. If we're saying we want to create freedom and impact, you better have the kids' stuff scheduled into your calendar first, your exercise first, right? How you're going to fuel yourself first before you even think about giving it away. There's a metaphor that is used a lot in the spiritual world. It's like you picture a cup, right? And you picture a pitcher. And if the cup is empty, right, you can't pour from it, right? It's like having the cup upside down and then trying to receive anything. You can't. You wouldn't be able to actually receive it, even if people were willing to give that to you. And so I just want to ask you, and I had to ask myself this real question of like, what am I closing off because my actions aren't aligning with my legacy? I'm saying with my mouth, I want. So for me, I'm saying I want to be a 9-figure CEO. Even saying that out loud, like, scares me, I have to say. Like, it's like, because I now understand, like, okay, well, I have to make some things non-negotiable. I have to start saying no to things that I like saying yes to sometimes because of the vision. Well, why am I even doing that vision? Is it for the pursuit of the 9 figures? Absolutely not. It's for the pursuit of who I get to become to have that level of legacy. And I'm hoping this podcast is really shifting some of you that will get to 7 figures this year because of going all in on the one key linchpin, that one key lever that makes it all work. And that is learning how to train in 7-figure CEO thinking, actions, executions, leadership in advance of getting there. The fastest way to 7 figures is to think like you're already there. So I hope this has been a powerful podcast. I don't hear many people talking about, I hear all the marketers talking about scale, 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 scale. But 52% of people who scaled in 2020 don't have a business anymore. I don't want you to scale. I want you to succeed. I want you to have sustainable success. I want you to dig deep into your heart of hearts, control the controllables, schedule the legacy pieces first, and get committed to the shift, because the shift is what makes the 7 figures possible. No longer identify with the masses. Become mentally that 7-figure CEO. Have the thinking processes, the analysis, the decision making. That is all trainable. But most people would rather struggle than train. Maybe that's not you. So go over to YouTube, find this podcast video and put shift, because we're opening up a very elite experience, an immersive experience for 10 high-level entrepreneurs that are about or at that 6-figure level that will get to 7 figures this year. And the strategy is not going to be a thing. That it's time to make that shift. And once that shift is made, so we're going to get together in person with me. I will be coaching you through that experience. You walk out of that experience with a true up-leveled 7-figure CEO mindset that draws to you like a magnet what it is that you want. So if that's you, it's not for everybody listening right now, but I hope this podcast is really been eye-opening. What does it take, not just to scale, but what does it take to sustain 7-figure success? All right. That's what I have for you this week on the Epic Success Podcast. If this podcast has been valuable to you, will you do me a big favor? Give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us. If you're listening to us on YouTube, do me a big favor, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any of these recordings. And if this type of podcast is valuable to you, will you let me know that on Instagram? Just share the podcast and let me know what you thought about it. Tag me on it. I'd really like to know if you want me to dive deeper into the topics that really make the shift happen for you so that you can get to 7 and then multiple 7. Not because that's the destination, but because you are becoming the person with the capacity to be there. All right. That's what I have for you this week on the Epic Success Podcast. Until then, bye for now.